Something's wrong. Midnight Mirage is pulling up. Pulled up sharply in the final turn, her jockey's reaching for the reins. Ladies and gentlemen, this does not look good.
Midnight Mirage, the reigning Queen of the Night, has suffered what appears to be a serious injury. We'll have updates as soon as we know more, but this very well could be a tragic, career-ending injury for one of the sport's brightest stars. Hello everyone, welcome back to Cosmic Equestrian. If you're new here, I'm Molly Riversea and I run the Cosmic Equestrian Center. Today I'm introducing you to a project I got just about half a year ago now. Her name is Midnight Mirage, or Mira for short. She's an off-the-track thoroughbred I picked up from the Baroness's racetrack, and well, she's proven to be quite the character with quite the story. When one of my clients reached out looking for a green project horse on a budget with potential for eventing, I knew I'd need to start somewhere with plenty of raw talent. Thoroughbreds, especially those straight off the track, often make incredible eventers. The Baroness's racetrack felt like the perfect place to start my search. And that's when I saw her. Midnight Mirage, or Mira. She was absolutely stunning. She had what I like to call the look of eagles, this sharp, intelligent expression that made it impossible to look away. I couldn't help but wonder if she was the one. I know it sounds cheesy, but I just felt it. Her trainer was quick to give me the rundown. Mira had been retired after a tendon injury that ended her racing career. She assured me, though, it wasn't a major issue, just a typical track injury that would heal completely with a bit of time and the right management. Mira was green, but quiet and kind. Just a perfect blank slate for someone willing to put in the work, which we definitely were. She even had one of her exercise riders trot her around for me just to see what I was getting myself into before I got on. And this girl, I mean, she seemed almost too good to be true. Quiet, soft in the bridle, totally unfazed by the chaos around her. She walked, she trotted, and cantered, without putting a hoof out of line. She looked safe, sound, and willing. Very, very relaxed. Exactly what my client was looking for. But here's the thing about buying horses. What you see isn't always what you get. I've been in this business long enough to know that no horse is perfect, no matter how good they look on paper. So I scheduled a pre-purchase exam before making any decisions. The vet found the old tendon injury, as expected, and confirmed it was healing well. Mira was sound and in good shape overall, but there were little red flags. The kind of things you don't always notice until you dig a little deeper. She was pretty tense during the exam. The trainer just brushed it off as normal for a racehorse, and at the time I believed her because I didn't really know any better. It was my first off-the-track thoroughbred that I was getting. And nonetheless, I decided she would be the one for my client that I would be training up. But from the moment she stepped off that trailer into the Cosmic Equestrian Center, it was clear she was not the horse I'd met at the track. Mira was stressed, reactive, and just different. She wouldn't stand still, spooked at the sound of a wheelbarrow, and seemed completely overwhelmed. At first, I chalked it up to the transition. Moving from a racetrack to quiet farm is a big adjustment for any horse. But as the days went on, it became clear that this wasn't just an adjustment period. Mira was jumpy, resistant, and just completely checked out during our groundwork sessions. Something just wasn't adding up. That is when the vet and I started piecing things together. Mira's tension wasn't just from racing. It was likely from being overworked and being ridden in ill-fitting tack. And then there was her demeanor. That quiet, sweet mare I saw at the track, well, turns out she wasn't quite so calm without a little chemical assistance. Yep, Mira had been drugged for the trial ride. It's a harsh reality in the horse world. Sometimes sellers will do whatever it takes to make a horse look like an easy sale. She was far from the green, quiet project I thought I'd bought for my client. At that point, I had two options: send her back or make the best of the situation. And honestly, there was something about Mira still that made Sophie and I want to give her a chance. So I rolled up my sleeves and we got to work. With off-the-track thoroughbreds, especially ones fresh off the track, the first step is going back to basics. They've been taught to go fast, turn left, and that is about it. Mira really didn't understand personal space, didn't stand quietly, and definitely didn't know how to relax. Everything about her screamed, go, 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 and it was clear she was still wired for the racetrack. She was reactive to almost everything: the whip, my voice, even the wind blowing the leaves outside the pen. Some of it was nerves, and a lot of it was leftover stress from her racing days. Horses like Mira have spent their entire lives in high-energy environments, cooped up inside a stall, so learning how to slow down and listen was a completely new concept for her. At the track, she'd spent all her spare time in a stall, pretty much. The first time I turned her out, she ignored the grass completely, spent the entire time pacing the fence. She was restless, always looking for something to do, somewhere to go, and it took her weeks to figure out that she could relax, eat grass, and just enjoy the space. So we started slowly. Lots of hand walking, free lunging, pole work, things to build her trust and her confidence. Wasn't glamorous, but every little step forward felt like a win. Once her rehab was complete, I started riding her. With off-the-track thoroughbreds, you can't rush the process. Everything has to be very slow, consistent. Our first rides were all about balance and rhythm, helping her find a steady pace and just encouraging her to stretch through her back. Because at first she was very stiff, nervous, a little unsure of what I was asking, but little by little, every day, she started getting the hang of it. Every ride, I could feel her letting go of a little bit more tension and really starting to trust the process. When it came time to introduce her to jumping, I didn't know what to expect. Some off-the-track thoroughbreds take to it naturally, but others need a lot of guidance. Mira was hesitant at first. She wasn't sure where to put her feet or how to approach the poles or what they were doing there, but one thing I'll say about her, she always tries. I definitely became acquainted with the lesson that progress isn't always linear, and Mira's journey was absolutely no exception. We had plenty of tough days, like the time she decided that every brightly painted pole in the arena was hiding a monster, and once we were sure it wasn't her old injury reappearing or some other physical ailment causing the refusals, we knew it wasn't about the jumps themselves, it was about trust. She wasn't a natural over fences. It took a lot of patience to help her figure it out. How to approach the jump, where to place her feet, how to stay balanced on the landing. But with every session, she got a little better and a little braver. And then there was dressage. Let's just say, wasn't her favorite. She didn't understand the leg pressure, the contact, or why we weren't galloping. There were days where I felt like we were speaking two completely different languages. But every time we hit a wall, we found a way through it. She's a quick learner and she wants to please. It's just about showing her how. With ex-racers, you have to be patient. They've been taught to do one job their whole lives, and asking them to change careers is a big ask. But with Mira, once she understood what I was asking, she gave me everything she had. But cross country was where Mira truly came alive. It was like everything I'd been trying to teach her suddenly clicked. She could move forward, stretch out, and just go. It was completely different from the controlled, repetitive life she'd known on the racetrack. It was as if she finally realized she had a purpose, and that purpose was jumping over things and flying through open fields. Of course, it wasn't perfect right away. At first, she hesitated at the water, but she never said no, like she had show jumping. She'd slow down, take a look, and then decide, okay, I've got this. That's the kind of heart you want in an event horse. Watching her out there, I really started to believe that we may have just found a perfect eventing partner in her. Throughout our training together, I would also give Sophie lessons on Mira. She is a very confident junior rider, so I wasn't worried about anything that Mira was going to throw her way. Training a horse is one thing, but seeing someone else take the reins and flourish is a whole nother kind of rewarding. Then it was the day of the big show. I mean, not really. It was a beginner novice event and the stakes were pretty low, but gotta say it for dramatic effect. Sophie had been working with Mira for weeks at that point. She was taking lessons with me. Mira was not the easiest horse, and Sophie wasn't the most experienced rider, but Sophie did feel ready enough to take her to her first beginner novice level event. Mira was ready, but she was still green. A busy event environment is a lot to ask of any horse, let alone an off-the-track thoroughbred in her first season. But Sophie had worked hard for this moment, and I really believed in both of them. The dressage test didn't start off great. Mira was distracted, her trot was tense, and she spooked at a flower box by the judges' stand. Sophie did her best to keep her on track, but the first half of the test felt a little like a disaster. Then something shifted in her. Sophie softened her hands, took a deep breath, Mira started to relax, and by the second half of the test, they were starting to click. It wasn't perfect, but they finished strong. And honestly, that's all I could have asked for. Show jumping was where I really started to worry. Mira had been doing well in practice, but she had a habit of overthinking brightly colored fences. Sophie, on the other hand, had a habit of holding her breath when things got tense. And that's also when I noticed. Sophie was riding this entire course in a dressage saddle. I don't know if it was the early morning haze or just me being too focused on everything else, but yep, Sophie was about to ride an entire show jumping course in a saddle designed for sitting deep and elegant, not for two-pointing and flying over fences. To her credit, Sophie absolutely made it work. They knocked a rail here and there, but given the circumstances, I was just glad Sophie kept her cool and got back on track. I could tell Mira was starting to second guess herself a little bit, but Sophie gave her confidence to keep going. They didn't go clear, but they finished, and that is what mattered. This wasn't about being perfect. It was about building confidence for the future. Cross country, though, was where I knew they'd shine. Mira loves the open space, and Sophie had been working hard to give her the confidence she needed to tackle the course. The first few jumps were perfect. Smooth, steady, and exactly what we'd practiced. And then came the water. Mira had always been a little skeptical of the water in our schooling sessions, and out here was definitely no exception. She stopped, pawed, and refused to move forward. Sophie tried everything: encouragement, patience, even circling her back around, but Mira was just not having it. It wasn't ideal, but sometimes you have to improvise. Sophie got off, walked her through like an absolute trooper, and then remounted on the other side. Wasn't the smoothest round, but they kept going, and that's what counts. Sure, they didn't have the perfect round or the perfect day, but they did finish with heart. And for Sophie, very, very soggy breeches and socks. And for a green off the track thoroughbred in her very first season, that is a huge win. Well, I have to say, watching Sophie and Mira grow into a team has been one of the most rewarding parts of this journey. They've come so far, and I know this is just the beginning for them.
Aw, thanks. I couldn't have done it without you.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for coming along on Mira's journey thus far. It has been a ride full of challenges, some triumphs, and plenty of surprises, and wouldn't have had it any other way, as this horse is continuing to turn into something really spectacular. I think she's got a lot of promise. Anyways, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the adventures here at the CEC. Until next time, bye everyone!
Bye!